Alright, okay. Boeing 737-800 code engine star demonstration. This video will show you the basic idea how to start an airplane from code without any power sources running into it, only battery power. This video will not demonstrate what the actual airline do to start engine safely. This does not reflect their procedures or operation. This is just my personal understanding of the airplane, and don't follow my instruction if you're flying a real airplane or operating an airline. It might cause some big problems. So, alright, first thing first, go to the top panel, switch on battery power and standby power. So basically, as for now, we're powering the whole airplane by the battery. The next step is to start the APU, auxiliary power unit. But before we start the APU, we have to turn on the fuel pump using the battery power. Okay, so the fuel pump is on. We have some fuel feeding to the auxiliary power unit, and next step, we go to the APU start panel. Put this lever down and press it. Before we release it, we have to hold it for 3 or 4 seconds. And after that, you can see this gauge start turning. Now it's a good time to release that lever and let the APU run for a while. Once it get enough to, once the APU run to good speed, the power bus transfer unit, which is the switch box for the airplane. Now we're using the battery, and once the auxiliary power unit is ready, this light will on, and you can see there are 2 circuits for doing power switch, which one is actually which is for redundancy. So you have one actual working one. If you have one breakup, and another one still power the whole airplane. Okay, so APU is ready to power airplane. We switch the power from battery to APU. That is good. Fuel pump is on. Alright. Check complete. Once the APU is running, we can switch on the hydraulic pump for controlled surface and engine as well. The reason is that if you're using the battery power or the ground source power to feed in the hydraulic, sometimes the battery is not powerful enough to make all the hydraulic system working properly. In case of emergency, you have to use the battery to run a hydraulic, but in this case, we better have some redundancy power source, like more than enough power to have the hydraulic running. Alright, so since we're not parking right next to the building, we don't need any pushback. We can go ahead and start the engine right away. But before we start the engine, we do a check. Hydraulic pump for engine is on. Fuel pump for engine is all on. That is good. And we're feeding the air from APU to left engine and right engine, and also the air condition and cabin pressurization. So before we take off, this is one more thing we like to do. Doesn't have any real effect in flight simulator, but most people just do it anyway as for practice. So you set up your cruising altitude, right? Let's say 34,000 feet, okay? And we're landing somewhere in the Midwest, for well, somewhere in Denver, okay? So we basically put this number to, oh, my bad, say 40,000 feet. Alright, set this system to run automatically, and the computer will automatically adjust the cabin pressure to reduce the fatigue on the fuselage, and meanwhile make the passenger happy and feed them breathable air. Okay? Usually all the autopilot will do for now is seatbelt sign on. Okay? And do one, before we start the engine, we do one more check. Start check for yoke or control joystick. Left one is ready. And first officer one is ready. And one more thing is the overspeed warning. Those are all analog sun generator. Okay, back to cockpit. My bad. So, as for now, the engine is good to start. What else do we need to do? Oh, check the warning. Alright. Overhead, which means the engine. Okay. Alright. Now it's time to start the engine. Go to the engine start panel using the feeding air and APU power to turn engine to some kind of RPM before we pump the fuel into the engine to get it started. Once you can see on this engine display panel, there are two numbers here. Once the number hit 20% or 20, you can put the engine from cutoff to idle. And once you do that, engine will run totally on fuel. So the starter will automatically stop to normal operating mode. You will see that thing happen once I turn this two lever to idle, and we go back to engine start panel. See, it jumped back to auto. So the starter will stop working, and the engine will run on fuel by itself. Usually, when we're flying, we switch to this slot. So when one engine stalled or lost the power, we can use another engine to cross start. See, left engine is failed and you need to restart, but your APU is not running when you're flying in the middle of the air. But what else can feed the air and turn the power to the left engine, which is your right engine? This is basically what we do for both engines, just in case if engine 1 is stalled in the middle of the air without APU running at the same time. Okay, enough bullshit. Go back to top panel. For now, we can turn off the APU because we no longer need it. Alright? Let's switch to, but before we turn it off, we have to switch the power from APU, the airplane running electric power on APU. As for now, we have to switch it from APU to engine power. So basically that's what I did right there. And now we have to turn off the APU feed. So if we go to the voltage meter, you can see the left engine is running AC power. Right engine is running on AC power as well. And the APU is cranking zero power. Well, APU is still running, but we're not feeding the power to the switch panel to running all the electric system right now. So APU is good to turn off because we no longer need it. Just switch that thing off, so APU will stop running. But one more thing we have to do is to switch air feed, air conditioned compressor, and cabin pressure compressor, air conditioned, air feed, air bleed, and de-ice for left engine and right engine running from APU to actual engine. So we still have our cabin pressure running on the engine bleed instead of APU bleed, because APU, we just turned off the APU. Alright, once that thing is set, we're good to take off. This is not standard airline procedure, it's just like my understanding of this aircraft, which is totally fine. You will see a lot of minor difference from airline to airline, but most essential stuff we talk about today will be like 99% the same. So if you can understand this, you can just jump into the Boeing 737-800 and get it started, as long as you have some fuel and some charges in your onboard battery. Okay, now let's start taxiing and take off.